Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to, what are we calling this one? The cleanup. Have we already used that? I feel like we already used that.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Whatever. Adam has left us today. He is gone. The wind blew him away. He hit a big rock and he was eviscerated, which means that we have been left to wax poetic about a question. Mally can spew about how much he hates juniors. I can get as philosophical as I want. And David just has to deal with it because Adam is not here to restrain us. So today, we will be asking, what is a why in powerlifting that stands the test of that question of why? And why is this important? We're just asking a lot of whys. Because I think that a why in powerlifting is something that everyone has, but I do find that some of these reasons why, some of these whys, they don't stand up to interrogation. And I find that this can cause a lot of friction within an athlete. I find that even in some very, very bad examples and very bad cases, the extremes, it can even cause a lot of flux within a person's own humanity and their own ability to, continue on in the world. It can get a little existential if you don't have a why that is solid enough to, even exist within itself in a sense. But I think we can maybe get to that later, right? So maybe we start with some of our own whys, or maybe some whys that we have heard. If we want, we can even, grade it from some initial surface level whys to maybe some deeper whys, and then analyze those, and then get to why this can all be important at the end. But today, a lot of whys. I've said why too many times. I'm tired of it. I need another word for it already. And we're like, what, 3 minutes in? Maybe? Mally, what's your why?
Now or when I started?
I don't know, give me the journey. We got an hour to kill. I don't know. Do whatever you want.
I think in the beginning, my why was driven from, it needs a story. So I'll give it a story. So when I first started powerlifting, I was in college. You guys know the story, but not the listeners. But when I was in college, it was a program where you had to pass every single flight. You had to pass every single exam. And if you didn't, passing was 65%, not 50. Yeah. And if we didn't pass, you got kicked out of the program. So I was in this part early in my training where I was kind of having trouble with some stuff. And my instructor or principal of the school, you call him a chief pilot, but they sat me down and they said, flying isn't for everybody. And at that time, I'd kind of just started to compete in CrossFit and found out what powerlifting and strength sports kind of was. And then I went, I need to figure out how to prove everybody wrong that I can do this. So powerlifting turned into this thing where it really helped me lock in life, and not really training, but it was kind of like I would just go to the gym, study, train, go home, study more, come back to the gym, study, train. That's all I did every single day. So it was that was my why in the beginning of this kind of discipline and focus is what's going to get me my end goal of graduating from school and not getting kicked out. So that was my why initially. And then slowly as time went on, my why went from just wanting to stay so disciplined to I want to kind of maybe be competitive in this thing. But for a long period of time, I wasn't competitive. Probably until last year, I wasn't really competitive. But now my why is turned into something more. This is interesting because I was talking to my girlfriend about it this morning. Of powerlifting for me personally now is just trying to prove to myself constantly that I'm good enough in some way. And some days like today, yesterday, I do it at least 2 times a week where I split my workouts because of work, meetings, and stuff like that. And anybody out from the outside would be like, why is that guy doing that? But I'm almost afraid that if I don't, then I won't be good enough to be in a spot of being competitive against my competitors or peers, I guess. So for me, it's turned into this like, I have to do this or else I'm just not proving to myself that I'm good enough in any way. So powerlifting's kind of turned, I guess it started off in the same way too. It kind of helped me prove that I was good enough to have that goal of graduating. But now it's turned into, I need to do this because I've spent so much time in powerlifting, losing so many friends, relationships with family. Like my relationship with my family is not as good as it used to be. This just turned into therapy, but there's a lot of stuff that I've kind of lost over the last 10 years of powerlifting. So now it's kind of turned into like, this is all I got. I have to do this. Like I have to go and finish every single session every single day. I can't sleep unless I get my protein, and I can't get out of bed until I've got 8 hours of sleep. I have to do all this stuff just because there's so much that I've lost over the last 10, 11 years of powerlifting that I can't afford to not prove to myself that I want to be where I should be.
Yeah, so it started for a desire for discipline, and now you've created so much discipline within it that it's easy now for you to stay in it, right? So I think that why has like transformed in a sense, and it maybe didn't necessarily stand the test of time. I think more so because your why was eventually, accomplished in a sense. Like you are very disciplined now. I think that, the initial task of trying to gain some level of that was accomplished. So now, just to like test you, because I think that this is going to be like a further question that we do ask is, do you feel like maybe now it's a bit of a sunken cost? Is that maybe a sunken cost fallacy? Or do you feel that like you're just gone so far that's like, if you don't get back what you want out of the sport, it doesn't feel worth it? Or do you feel relatively happy with what you have accomplished? Like, let's dissect it a little more. Let's interrogate it. Like, do you feel like maybe you are in this spot?
Yeah, I know it's interesting because from an outside perspective, or even if you spoke to me, if you went back in time and spoke to me years ago and went, hey, in 10 years, you're going to win a national championship, you're going to go to World, you're going to represent Canada, you're going to have every single dream that you dreamt of in the sport. And I'd be like, oh, that's sick. That's all I wanted. That's good enough. But now, if you, for some reason, it's just, there's no end to it. Like the why just can't stop. And I think it's because for so long you spend so much time in this sport to try to prove to yourself that you belong and you will get where you want to get, that even once you get there, it's not satisfying. And I don't know if you've watched the movie Soul, but in that movie, they talk about the whole point of the movie is basically like this pianist who he dies. Sorry if I'm killing the movie for people, but he dies.
Fucking spoiler alert.
His whole goal.
I haven't seen the movie.
I have not seen the movie either.
My bad, boys.
Come on, bro.
Don't watch it. It's really good.
I'm not gonna now. He fucking dies.
In the beginning of the movie. It's like he dies in the
spoiler alert.
It's not that crazy.
What the fuck?
What movie is this called again?
It's called Soul. But anyways, he wants to be a pianist, and then his entire life he's tried to become this pianist, and then he dies and he tries to come back to life to become this pianist again, and then he becomes that person. Yeah, he comes back to life, becomes that person, and then it's like, why does this not feel satisfying? Why does this not feel like why is this not giving me the happiness that it's supposed to? And I kind of felt the exact same way when I was at Worlds. And that's why this movie really hit me, because I was just like, when I did Worlds, I kind of was not enjoying. Wasn't really. Everyone was telling me like, "Yo, enjoy this moment. This is your dream," and I couldn't. And I was like, "Is this what it's supposed to feel like? I don't fucking understand." And then the ending of the movie. I watched this movie a few months after Worlds because my girlfriend made me watch it because I was still having issues with this question. And the end of the movie, you kind of realize that the point of life is not like becoming so dialed into your art and like forgetting everything else. Like you forget so much of life where because people were like, oh, this is so important when I leave the world, this is going to be the mark, this is going to be what's important. But what's the point of life is really just to create relationships, be present, really enjoy what the fruits of life we have, right? So that made me, when you ask me that question, it makes me think of that movie because I'm like, no, I don't think the initial why is what's going to make me happy, but what's going to make me happy is, I don't know, we always freaking laugh about it, but it's like, maybe it's not the PRs we hit, but it's the friends we make along the way. People say that shit as a joke all the time, but it's kind of true. Like, like it matters more what you do along with it rather than just what you're doing now. So if you point that in powerlifting right now, yeah, I want to be competitive. There's a part of me that wants to be competitive, and I'm going to do everything I can. But that why is almost changed from why am I trying to be, I should pour myself into it until I lose myself, it shouldn't be that. It should be more like just be yourself and accept who you are and, live life along with powerlifting. But that initial why that kind of sparked me and even got me to Worlds, it doesn't feel that good, is what I'm trying to say. People always say even if you win, you wake up the next day and you have to go back to training or you have to go back to living your life. But if you pour all your life into just like that win or that moment, and then when it gets to that moment, it's gone. What's next?
Ah, damn. How am I supposed to follow this now?
It sounds like you don't like the movie Whiplash. The movie Whiplash
Yeah,
disagrees with
Whiplash
you
is
and
a good
says,
movie,
actually,
too.
pouring yourself into it, cool. I clearly did not understand the ending of Whiplash. I thought they're just like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
And the
This is
drop.
also a movie I have not seen yet either.
I actually haven't even seen Whiplash.
What?
Malik keeps telling me to watch it. I have
Whiplash
yet to
Malik
watch
keeps
it.
telling me to watch every fucking movie on IMDb. I'm not going to do it.
Soul, Whiplash, everybody go watch both those movies. Not in that order. Watch Whiplash and then watch Soul.
Damn, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to follow Mel's whole why.
Sorry, I had a lot of time.
I'm going to be completely honest with y'all, and my why is pretty simple. Do it because it's fun. And
You're not allowed to say that.
it's fun, okay? It's fun. Powerlifting's fun. And it's hella rewarding, which is why I do it.
But what about parts when it's not fun?
Parts when it's not fun. So that is a good question.
Like, what keeps you in it when the hedonism dies out? Like, because you don't just train when it's fun. I know this, right? So then what keeps you going when it isn't fun? What's your why then?
I guess my why then would be having some kind of structure. Because before, I feel like I said this before on the podcast. So I don't know if we aired it though, but
we did. Like, you're getting a lot of deja vu because we did a little background knowledge for the audience. If we do air this one, the first episode we did this, but it was like terrible, so we scrapped it. But we're making it better this time. But anyways, continue.
All right. So I guess my story. Okay, it's definitely deja vu. So before I even started powerlifting, before I even started like lifting in general, I was a soccer player, right? And then after I played soccer, after high school, you go to school. Sometimes you don't play sports. You just kind of go to class and eat, which is what I did. So then I got skinny fat. And I was like, fuck, I do not like the way I look. So I need to figure out how I can change that. So that's when I started going to the gym. My friend showed me like how to do like chest presses and stuff like that, dumbbells, chest press, the whole basic stuff. And when I first started weightlifting, I could not even lift the barbell. All right. This is like 45 pounds. I could not lift it because before that, I did no upper body because, I was a soccer player. I was like, I don't need upper body. I just like work on legs. So for probably like a couple years, did basic, bro split, stuff like that. And then after that, I kind of found powerlifting through YouTube. I was like, oh, what is this like cool sport that lets you ego lift, but like kind of eat badly in a way? Because back then, when powerlifting
fat
was like
powerlifter, yeah.
back then, like before all like these lean freaks that are out right now, like to get really good in powerlifting, a lot of people would be like, oh, you gotta get like super big, and by doing that, I would be consuming a lot of calories. And that was what I liked because I really like to eat. I had a huge appetite, right? And I was like, oh shit, I can eat a fuck ton and lift a fuck ton. This is like the best sport ever. So slowly I got in the wormhole of like watching YouTube videos, trying to figure out how to like do these movements correctly and stuff like that. And then from there, I kind of I almost like reinvented myself in a sense of being disciplined, slowly being disciplined with like training, programming, and like nutrition, right? And then along the way, I don't know what happened, but I just reinvented myself. I wasn't skinny fat anymore. I was putting on muscle on. I was liking the way I feel. I was liking the way I fit in shirts. To me, that was rewarding. That was fun, which is why I kept sticking to powerlifting. Because back then, a lot of people would say, "Oh, if you want to build muscle, you gotta lift heavy," right? So
Lightweight. Yeah, buddy.
yeah, so like doing that, I ended up kind of reinventing myself and having like a little switch in the brain. Whereas in UK, like if this is something I want to do, I have to lock in. I have to like start finding someone who's going to get me the right programming, trying to do like my nutrition correctly. And then from there, I just developed that, what's the word? Consistency and like a new drive in life. Whereas like powerlifting was like the thing to do, because back then it wasn't popular, because this was like a couple of years back.
And has that just remained constant to today?
Honestly, yes, because the one thing that is constant, it would be me trying to go through with programming and training, and that, I guess, building that habit was the toughest part, especially coming from someone who didn't lift at all before that. It was like this weird thing of like, okay, you have to be consistent. I don't know. It just stuck with me, and then I guess it's also like a way to prove myself, like, hey, I'm not going to regress to my old me, and like this is like who I am now. But yeah, and then from there it's just like, then that, I don't know, it's fun for me. So I don't.
What about
I think-
now? Like, what's your why now? Like, are you just trying to, because you look good, you've got your dream body, whatever.
Stop hitting
you're
him.
Ah, damn.
kind of you're hitting PRs constantly. Not your last comp, let's not talk about that one, but before that you were doing pretty good consistently. But so what's next? Are you driving towards, like, do you have a small why in you that like, oh, what if I could become a champ? What if I have something else? Is there like a competitive why inside you now?
I think there is a comparative why in me, like, but it's more like internally. So a lot of people are be like, hey, I want to be like national champion. I want to win this X, Y, and Z. It's whatever. But for me, it's like competitive and like I can be the best version of myself. And I want to kind of maintain that mindset going through life, especially with everything else. So like with powerlifting, if I prove to myself like I can become the best version of myself every day, and I can put steps into making that happen, then it's going to kind of trickle down to my life and like everything I do with like business, with friends, being there, being accountable. It's like a lot of life lessons in that sense. And also because, I'm going to have a kid soon and stuff like that. I really want her to kind of see me as an example of someone who is resilient and doesn't give up and is always working hard, whether that be small goals or large goals, right? Because they'll always add up. So that is like my why, is to, I guess, I don't know, I guess it's kind of weird, but my why would be to have like my daughter be proud of me and the person that I am,
Yeah.
I think that you guys actually have very similar whys. And I think that like both whys, I think, boil down to discipline and that innately being good, right? However we want to define goodness versus badness, we are going to just go with, discipline in and of itself is a positive aspect that we curate through powerlifting. I think is more or less what at least you guys have been on at some point. And I think now it's started to devolve more into Mally continues to powerlift for some sake of individualism or even belonging to a community. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that. And then, David, that discipline is to become something more than a powerlifter, but rather, become a father. So we can use powerlifting as a vehicle to teach ourselves, that crucial life skill of just remaining in something, right? And I actually find that discipline tends to be, based off of my limited, non-existent research of just talking to people and, observing people, discipline tends to be, I think, the most successful why when it comes to long-term compliance in a way, right? People that stick with powerlifting for a very, very long time tend to say it's because of the discipline that it instills in them. And this is kind of where I'm trying to go with this question of like, why is a why important? Because we've had this sort of new age of powerlifters. I know Mally has droned on in both podcast episodes that we have released and ones that we have not released about how much he hates juniors, right? And
I don't hate juniors.
You okay? Well, I got footage in the bank that would say otherwise. Anyways, because we've had this new wave, right, of post-COVID lifters that are now starting to approach, let's say, that 4 to 5 year mark when things will naturally start to get tougher, right? Maybe this is when injury starts to creep about, the return on investment is lower, maybe the sport just starts to lose its novelty, but we're starting to sort of see this mass fall off of a lot of newcomers to the sport. And I think it is because their why just hasn't stood the test of that inquiry of, if my why is just, it's fun, right? Because sometimes that is my why. David's why was it's fun. When it's not fun, and that is your only reason for doing this, as soon as it's not fun, you just leave it, right? If I'm only in powerlifting because it is very viscerally enjoyable, and then I get injured, why the fuck am I going to stick with it? Why am I going to go through a rehab process? I'm done. I'm out. So there needs to be something more. And I think that this is like, why this question becomes so important. And I think to like a further degree, if you'll allow me to continue to wax and wane on, I had an athlete I won't name him just in case he wants this to remain private, but he approached me and he was telling me that, when he got under the bar and, he's in the middle of a cut, he's in the middle of a meet prep, he couldn't focus on lifting because he was just asking himself, what's the point of any of this? Right. And, being the, dick that reads too much philosophy without thinking about it too much I asked him, what's the point of anything? Right? Because I think that's eventually what it boils down to is if you're going to ask yourself why you do something, you need to ask yourself, why do you do anything at all? Because if you aren't able to answer that question immediately and you further interrogate it and examine it, eventually that's what everything turns down to is what's the purpose of anything at all? And I'm sure a lot of people might be, looking at their phone or whatever they listen to this on right now and going, it's not that deep, bro. But I'd argue that powerlifting is one of those things that can truly be that deep and can be somewhat analogous for life in a whole, right? Like powerlifting is a vehicle for discipline. It is a vehicle for struggle and triumph. And it is sort of this canvas that we can relate the rest of life onto. And I think that if you aren't asking these questions of genuinely, why do I do anything and how does that pertain to powerlifting? Eventually it's going to hit you all at once. You're going to either experience a relatively traumatic injury, maybe you had goals that you set, and you expected to hit them in 2 to 3 years, and now you're 4 to 8 years in and you haven't hit them yet, and you're like, this is a lot of time invested. This is a lot of pain invested, money and all that. Why am I doing any of this? And if you haven't reckoned with that question, eventually it'll come to reckon with you. And now you're having a midlife crisis in your 20s. And you're going, I've been doing
too early for that.
Right? And it's genuine. So I do find that as much as people may want to neglect this question, or they go this isn't a utility question that it's immediately actionable, I'd go so far as to say that this is the most important question that a person can ask. And I'd go even so far as to say that this podcast episode isn't intended to answer that question, but rather just forward it onto the person and have them answer it. Because if you don't answer your own why, and you never create a why, you're going to wake up or maybe not even go to sleep one night, and it's going to be 4 a.m. and you're going to go, what the fuck am I doing? And that's applicable to literally anything. I know that my own why, not that anyone asked, but I will answer.
Yeah, what's your why, Nick?
What is your why? Bro?
My own why at this point has become that I think that life is about experiencing things. I think if, any other reason that is perhaps non-religious, it starts to boil down to sort of intangibles. And my rationale for it is life is about experiencing as many things as possible. And some people might see that powerlifting is now a, contradictory statement to that, because it is very mundane and very repetitive, right? Powerlifting is the same thing day in, day out. I feel like I've been living a gradual Groundhog Day for the last 10 years. But the highs of powerlifting, those competitive triumphs, are experiences that I don't think I can get out of anything else. Going to World and standing on the podium, we won't say at what place on the podium, but standing on the podium, unforgettable. And I want to experience standing higher on that podium. And the only way to do that within my finite lifespan is to train really hard for at least another 5 years. And then I can move on. So my why for it is human experience. It is a vehicle for that. It is a vehicle for experiencing joy and triumph and conquer, but also pain and suffering that I think is crucial to being a human and experiencing all that life has to offer. I can do that through the lens of powerlifting. And I am confident in saying that this answer is, solid enough that under interrogation, it doesn't falter. And I think that maybe if there's going to be one point of action that someone can take from this episode, it is that your why needs to be able to stand up to that examination. Because if it doesn't, you again fall back to that square one of basically not having a why. If anything, it's even scarier because now your why, you examine it too far and it doesn't hold up, and you're like, not only do I not know what the fuck I'm doing, I don't know anything, right? This is something that is actually very scary. I think if people are just reckoning with this now, I have a lot of people in my own circles, in my own communities, in my own life that are now reckoning with this question, and I am pleading with those that have not yet approached that to approach the question first before it inevitably approaches them. This is something I genuinely feel very passionate about because I hate to see people talk to me, especially when they're older than me, and they go, why am I doing this? Why am I doing? Because I don't have an answer. I can't have an answer. Yeah, of course.
I thought your why was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Both your whys kind of made me tear up. I'm not even gonna lie right now. It's kind of shit hit deep.
David just, I want to be a better father. How do I how does anyone beat that?
How did
what do I say? I want to be a worse father.
I almost fucking cried when he said that shit, man. That was crazy. But
I mean,
I think
that's a beautiful why. It works really well because it's like, if you want to be a better father, that's going to subsist through the trials and tribulations. At no point is David ever going to experience a roadblock in training and go, actually, being a better father ain't even that cool. I'm out. That's not going to happen. Right? So now he can stick with powerlifting as long as it brings him reward, right? As long as it helps him on that journey of being a better father, which it will, right?
Yeah. And what we're trying to get at here is that even my why, even though I kind of had a existential crisis with it at some point a couple of months ago, along the way, it still taught me how to get that discipline. And there's so many fruits in powerlifting while you're going through the struggles. And struggle is an interesting thing because my dad always says to me that everybody, any human being at some point in their life is going to have a really dark time. It's either going to come early or it's going to come later, but it's going to happen to all of us, right? So we need to be ready to do that. For me personally, I think that dark time has already happened. I'm not going to go into it, but it's already happened. But I think powerlifting for me, while it was happening, was a very good vehicle to focus, really stay disciplined with myself and really, keep myself in check and not let myself slip away or go into substance or something bad. And now it's just, that's what I'm going to do because I almost think of it like I owe powerlifting this because powerlifting gave me my life and got me out of all of that. So now I have to keep doing this because I'm the person who I am because of powerlifting. And I have to keep learning from it. I have to keep sharing. That's why I coach. I don't coach because of the money. I coach because I really, really enjoy sharing what powerlifting can do for a person, right? So if you talk to each of my clients, I really try to teach them, what is powerlifting going to do for you? What is the actual fruits that this sport is trying to teach you? I'm trying to be that person for these people because that's what the sport gave to me. So what I'm trying to say is that if you just like juniors and stuff, the new age powerlifters, you come into the sport and you're just like, I hit PRs. I want to beat the world record. And your total is 520 kilos at 135 kilos. If you're coming in with that, your why of being, I need to beat somebody, now your brain is already, it's lost, right? You're thinking of the sport completely wrong. No matter what skill level you are in this sport, I think it's very important to understand what this sport is giving you and what it can give you. And I think that's when people will really understand and figure out what their why is. Because if they just sit there and look at numbers, that's not the point of powerlifting, in my opinion. Yes, it's a competitive sport. Yes, we're trying to hit PRs, but there's way more than that. That's why there's people who are dads who are never going to be world's athletes, or never going to be world champions or national champions, who still do this shit, it's not because they're trying to hit constant PRs, but it's because they've figured out that this sport can give them way more than just instant gratification. Because the moment you chase that instant gratification, you're going to get that gratification and it's not going to feel like anything.
Or I think even scarier is you don't get it.
Yeah,
right? Like
or you don't get it.
If your only reason to do the sport is a title, right? As a championship, you might not get there, right? Not everyone's going to be a world champion. Whoa, crazy. But like genuinely. So there needs to be a reason that is more innate. There needs to be something almost like cause sui, in which we give a shit for the sake of doing and not for the sake of something down the line, right? I remember very early on, back when I was in like university, I forget who I was talking to, so I won't even, they won't get upset by me talking about them because I don't even remember who it was. I just remember what they said. And they were like, the reason why I'm powerlifting is because I want money and fame. Like, they wanted to be an influencer. They wanted to go to money meets and make a lot from it. And it was boggling to me because it's like, if you wanted money out of powerlifting, just go work construction. You are guaranteed a return on investment for the same amount of just hard work, genuinely. I'm sure, I mean, there's zero fucking chance anyone in construction listens to this podcast. But like, I can't imagine that like there is the same, like, it's probably similar grueling effort and you return a degree on investment. Powerlifting needs to mean something, or any sport, right? Any physical endeavor that isn't just blue collar work needs to have something innately returning beyond the vapidity of title, or even just, in my opinion, vanity, right? That's maybe going a bit far. Maybe some people do genuinely just do this stuff for the vainest of reasons, but even eventually that will dissipate. And then what? I think that's really my thing, is that, and then what? Things need to mean something.
Yeah, that is the tough question. Yeah, I'll be like, I mean, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head here. It's, if you don't have a good why, you're gonna end up burning out, and then it's not gonna be fun, and then you're gonna end up dropping the sport, and then you're gonna be doing something totally different, right? So
Not even burning out. I think you'll just be scared. This is the most passionate I feel about any subject, because I care deeply about humanity and I care deeply about the other individuals, and it's a very scary thought to reckon with. And I don't think people are reckoning with it enough. I think they're not taking me seriously even now. But you won't just burn out. I am begging you. You will not just go, this sport's done, I'm going on to something else. You're going to eventually ask yourself, why am I doing anything at all? And you are not going to like the answer. And it's scary. I don't know where I'm going anymore with this.
That's pretty deep.
I think I'm just getting very passionate about this. You need to ask these questions about anything that you're doing, and powerlifting is maybe the most approachable first step. Right? Because
it's interesting, because there's so many people in this world that even I come across every day who don't really have a why with anything.
It's terrifying. It's
scary.
That's terrible.
It's insane.
It is nihilism. It is the genuine definition of nihilism. And if you approach something as genuinely nihilistic as powerlifting, because let's be honest, we are lifting weights. We've made training a sport. We are not recognized yet on the International Olympic Committee. We are a very tiny niche sport. We exist within ourselves. There is no money unless you are at the very, very top. This is as meaningless as it can get when you compare it to traditional sort of qualities, right? You're not going to get rich. You're not going to get famous. You're going to put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for something that, if it doesn't mean something to you, it is meaningless, and it is utterly nihilistic. And you need to fight that nihilism with something. right? That was, Nietzsche's big fear. That was Camus's big fear, or like Albert Camus, whoever wants to fucking correct me on that. It is, the fear of the modern century is things cannot be meaningless. Powerlifting is the first vehicle of that. This is, the most important thing I've ever said up to this point in my life, is that powerlifting is the first thing you need to genuinely inquire about within your own existence of what is the meaning of this, and then you can carry that forward into everything else. If you're a powerlifter, I'm sure you couldn't do that if you were.
And
All said.
I don't really, like, I'll say I don't hate juniors because they burn out, but I hope for them, for my sake, I hope for them, not for my sake, for their sake, that they find something that teaches them the why of life, or why of what they're doing. It have to be powerlifting. I'm not telling you guys that go to powerlifting because there's so much in it that you're going to find your why. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that there is something out there for each of us that's going to give you that why. Like, I have captains at work who I work with who've been in the same plane for 27 years, and they still look out the window and go, "That's a cool cloud." And I'm like, dude, you've been doing this shit for 30 years. How are you still amazed? And like, that makes me feel so happy for them, though, because you can tell that they found their thing and their why of like what is going. And that's why I think I like both my passions so much, is because the child in me wanted to become a pilot, and I did it. And now I'm so happy that I'm in that role. And then the young adult in me wanted to be a high-level competitive powerlifter, and now I'm doing that, right? So it's both these things that I'm like so passionate, and I've found out that both of them give me such like happiness, and why they answer my why, that I can sit there and after one nationals, I sat in front of my dad, and he was like, I was hurt, and he's like, "What the hell's the point of this? Why are you doing this?" And I just I didn't need to answer it. I had answered it to myself. Right? I didn't stop because I'd already known the answer. I was like, I know why I'm doing this. I don't need to tell you why I'm doing this. I don't need to quit because you questioned me. Right? But if you can't sit there with something that you're doing, I don't know, the late great Kobe Bryant fucking said it too. He was all he said
Kobe again, dude.
He said something along the lines of like, if you don't wake up every day and you're not feeling excited to do it, don't fucking do it. And I know it's easy for me to say because I have two careers that I fucking love, but for most people, like, if you're doing something, I know some people just have to do it. They have to work a job that they don't like, whatever, right? But for most people, don't fucking powerlift if you don't like it. Don't fucking do it if you don't have a why, and it's not like making you like fucking crumble at your toes just for enjoying the struggle and enjoying the process. Just don't fucking do it. You're wasting your time. Like, it's okay not to do it. No one's holding a gun to your head to say do it. But if you can't sit there and go, no, I'm going to the gym because this is my reason and this is what I need to do and this is what it's teaching me, then don't fucking do it. You're wasting your time. It's fucking endless percent of your life that you're just throwing away at a barbell. Go do something else.
Well said.
Time is finite, right? Like, we're starting to beat a dead horse. And like Mally said, we do come from a area of privilege here wherein I'm pretty sure we're all doing things that we enjoy. None of us are, forced to do things that we otherwise don't want to do. And some people are in that position where, like, it is what it is, and that sucks, right? But powerlifting isn't one of those things, right? This is ultimately a powerlifting podcast. No one is forced to do powerlifting. And if it isn't fulfilling, yeah, I think that you should just leave. If that makes me lose clients, I doubt it. I think that all of my clients adore the sport, right? But, if some people quit because of this podcast, and so be it, and I hope onto greener pastures. But I do want to sort of like end by saying that powerlifting can be extremely fulfilling. I think that as much as we have, asked this question, we all do have our own whys. We all have our reasons and rationales, and they make sense to us, and we find so much fulfillment in powerlifting, and I am happy to give my finite hours on this earth to the sport. because there is that return. And that brings me peace. And that brings me a sort of solidity, even through my current process now, where like I can barely walk. I haven't squatted or deadlifted in months. You know, I miss it deeply. I'm going to return to it because I love it, because of what it represents to me, because I have asked this why, and I have interrogated it, and I have found my answer. And, you know, that's why eventually I will return to Worlds, and I will fulfill my dream of stepping higher on the podium, and I will experience more life. And that's all I can ever ask.
Beautiful.
Do you guys have any thoughts in closing?
Yeah, I think another thing I wanted to say was, I guess we kind of hit it, but there's a lot of people who come into this powerlifting world or even fitness nowadays with like really short-term kind of sparks, like you know, breakup. That's probably the most common thing, or like money, what Nick just said, you know, things like that. Like they want it. They're kind of like, oh, this is going to make me this better person. Not even know that, but they're trying to just get this quick answer out of everything because they feel kind of useless. I think that's dangerous and that's scary because you're not really figuring out something about yourself. So I don't know. I think in closing for myself with this whole topic is, don't jump into something that just because you're trying to like get over something quick. You know, it might be a vehicle to kind of get you out of a small rut or small issue that you're having, but there's way more that it can give you long term. But if you don't find that long term why, you're never going to stick with this or anything. I don't know if that made any sense.
I kind of want to challenge that, but David, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think for me it's pretty simple, and this kind of discussion kind of help with that. I would say before you have fun, find your why, and when you find your why, you'll have more fun.
Yeah, I think that's true. Fact checked by true American patriots. But I think I just want to quickly add on to maybe even challenge a bit of Mally's assertion, wherein I think that whatever initially gets you into the sport will not be what continues to drive you. I think that people tend to get into physical activities for David.
This is true. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I was just like this because it is actually, when you said that actually makes a lot of sense, because I got into the sport for vanity, and I'm not really in it for vanity anymore. So
yeah,
that's what makes sense.
I got into the sport because, well, I mean, I got into like just training, just lifting weights, because I failed a gym PT test. We had to do a beep test, which I did very well on. I think I scored like a 12 something. I was great at running. And then we had to do a sit-up test and a push-up test. And I could not do one of either. I could not do a single push-up. So I was like, all right, I got to do something about this. Okay. But anyways,
like me with the barbell.
Whether it be failing a, gym fitness test in front of all, the girls,
your peers,
or, a breakup, like Malia said. I think that whatever gets you into the sport is fine. It will not endure. And somewhere along the line, then you need to ask that question of, why am I continuing to do this? And then you can, perhaps transform as a person. And powerlifting can be quite transformative. Any sport can be. Anything that is physically disciplined and requires you to consistently get in and do the work and stay on top of things is transformative. And I think that it is almost an essential part of becoming human. Not just being, but genuinely becoming and fulfilling the one and only experience you have on this earth.
Yeah.
Powerlifting can do that. Any physical endeavor can do that. Right? But you just need to actually engage with it beyond the vapidity that maybe initially brings you in.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
I think.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
What Nick's too smart. So for the people like me, what he just said was basically find something bigger than just easy, quick things that powerlifting can give you. Like on social media and stuff, the things we see, PRs and winning and top people making a lot of money or having 500K followers. I think there's only like 2 powerlifters that have that many followers, but don't look at that. Maybe that attracts you at first, but really try to, like, as you're going through every single day and every single session and maybe injuries and stuff, really figure out, you know, what is this shit doing for you? And then you might be able to answer your why. And then that's when you kind of become like, okay, I just need to keep doing this. And I think that's when you'll really find satisfaction with where you're at in the sport and where you're at with life. But if you just keep chasing that initial spark, you're never going to get there. And none of us are, I don't think I'm ever going to become a world champion, but I'm going to die trying because that's what me wants to do. And I know that along with that, I'm going to learn so much about the sport, right? And about myself, and going to be able to, what David said, one day, hopefully I'll have a child and I'll be able to make them, they'll look back at my life and be like, hey, dad did that, right? Or dad tried to do that and he's still doing it. And that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, big muscles will bring you into the sport, but they won't keep you happy when you ask yourself why. I think that is a good place to end. Thank you all for listening to 3 men with no real reason to do this drone on about subject matter well out of their scope. Tune in next time, or actually, send in your whys to n.manders, DM them to me directly, and next episode we'll read them out loud and make fun of you for how vapid and surface level you are and how shit your whys are. Send them right to me, and next episode we'll do that. Maybe with Adam. Hopefully Adam joins in, and he is horrified at how we treat others.
Oh, I know Adam's why.
I don't care.
Adam's why is he because it's difficult.
Ah, fuck
he
that
likes
guy.
likes doing shit that's difficult.
You know what else is difficult? I beat Doom the Dark Ages on Ultra Nightmare. You know how hard that is? I did that with I couldn't sit down because my leg hurt. I had to do that standing up.
You did.
You know how hard that is? Yeah, Doom the Dark Ages.
What is
on
that?
Ultra Nightmare.
Oh, Doom.
Yeah, what do you think I was saying? Yeah, Doom.
I don't know.
Doom the Dark Ages.
Is that new? That just
if Bray hasn't cut the episode by now, some point down that's on him.
So-
Cut the recording.